Like the Chicago weather, the New York Giants went ice cold in their 24-20 loss to the Chicago Bears. More on what happened coming up next on the Locked On Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, credential member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI, which is where you can find all my written work. And as always, we welcome on in our Blue Crew community members, our everydayers, our newcomers, and everybody in between. We thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And if you're making us your first listen of the day, we thank you for that as well. Today's episode of Locked On Giants is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. All right, Giant fans, another week, another loss, another collapse by the defense in the fourth quarter. This is just getting ridiculous at this point. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you guys. I really don't. Just when you think you have this figured out, you don't. All right. The Giants were up 20-10 against the Chicago Bears early in the fourth quarter. They then proceeded to give up 14 unanswered points. The 11th straight road loss for the Giants. They are 0-4 in games this year in which they have had a 10 or more point lead going into the fourth quarter. Their defense has been outscored 115-68 in the fourth quarter. And in their last four games, they have given up 75 points, right? Folks, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if it's the scheme, the execution. Maybe it's a little bit of everything. Quite honestly, I think some of it's the play calling. There was one play in particular, which I'll talk about in a little bit, in which they called for a too deep safe inside the tight red zone. And I'm just sitting there and I'm saying to myself, what is Shane Bowen doing? Moreover, how does he still have a job? You know, I feel terrible talking about how people should be fired, especially with the holidays coming up. But how can this be allowed to continue? It's the same thing, rinse and repeat with this defense. They keep falling apart in the fourth quarter. And you can't tell me it's all on the players because I don't believe that. Were they partially to blame? Yes. Deonte Banks has no business playing in this game on defense. I mean, he's got to sit down. I'll go in and play cornerback if they need somebody to play because I guarantee you with my bad knees and everything, I'll give you more of an effort than what Deonte Banks gives you, right? This is ridiculous at this point. The Giants run defense, again, a problem. 171 yards rushing allowed. The 3 long runs of 15 or more yards included a touchdown. I mean, there's just no answer in sight. And I just don't understand how week after week, Brian Daboll can sit there and say, yeah, I've got confidence in Shane Bowen to get this defense right. Yeah, I've got confidence in all the guys we put out there. I mean, all right, you might say, well, what else is he going to say? I'd rather he say nothing, or I'd rather he just flat out put him and hold him accountable. And just say, look, this isn't acceptable. You know, we got to fix it. And, you know, he said that before. He has said that before. It's not good enough. We got to coach better. We got to play better. But nothing's getting done. And it's the same result week after week after week. And it's just too much at this point. And I got to be honest with you, folks. I don't know how they can justify allowing this to continue. I really don't. I'm going to talk about Dable in the next segment. But Shane Bowen, I'm sorry, he cannot be allowed to continue to be the defensive coordinator of this team. Take your chances with Marquand Manuel or even Andre Patterson if he's willing to take on the job. But Shane Bowen, there's no excuse for this. The defense played halfway decent through 3 quarters of the game, except for a breakdown here and there. And they can't finish? You mean to tell me, that suddenly the Bears and the Broncos before them and the Eagles and the 49ers, you mean to tell me that they suddenly woke up and said, we've now figured it out after 3 quarters how to beat this defense. It's got to be a philosophy. And it's just frustrating as all heck to see this week after week, because I keep saying this, and I truly believe this, folks. This defensive unit is better than what they have shown. Much better than what they have shown. They can't stop the run. Coming into this game, I think we talked about how the Bears like to attack the left defensive side of the field, okay, which makes sense if you think about it. And the Giants had no answers for that. Some of the Bears' longest runs came to that defense's left side. And the Giants just had no answers. And I don't think you could even say it was missed tackles or necessarily always bad angles. They play with no discipline. I mean, I mentioned Deonte Banks. How many penalties did he have? I think he had 2, one of which was a defensive pass interference. That kid should not be playing. He gets beat and he resorts to grabbiness to survive out there. And I'm sorry. I mean, how many more opportunities are you going to give him? It just blows my mind. It just really does. And the funny thing, here's the funny thing, folks. If you look at the final game stats, all right, the team stats, the Giants only allowed the Bears 391 yards, whereas the Giants had 431. The Giants held the Bears to 3 of 11, which is 27.3% on third down. Okay, which is, that's not too bad. The Bears average 6.1 yards per offensive play. That's not great, but the Giants were at 6.2. And oh, by the way, the Bears lost the time of possession battle, 28-42 to the Giants, 31-18. All right. And then let me just see the passing yardage. The Bears had, they had 220 passing yards to the Giants, 262. Those numbers would suggest a win. But yet, you go and you look at the fourth quarter, and it was no contest. It was just no contest. And it's just the same stuff week after week. How many more weeks can the Giants allow this to go on? If they continue to let this go on, then they deserve to lose the rest of their games, plain and simple, because nothing's getting done. They're burying their heads in the sand. Oh, we've got confidence in our guys. Come on. And I didn't put in a segment here about special teams, but I got to bring that up real quick before I turn to segment 2 when I get to Dable. Special teams, for the most part, the last few weeks has been dreadful. Jamie Gillen today at kickoffs, 2 kickoffs he was penalized on. Okay? They had to go to Younghoe Koo to do the kickoffs in the second half. That experiment with Jamie Gillen's got to end. I know what they were trying to do. They figured, let's take advantage of the left-footed kicker. Maybe that'll, put a different spin on the ball. Well, what good is it if the ball isn't landing where it's supposed to be? It's like an adventure every week with special teams now all of a sudden. And that's got to change as well. So, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, folks, because in the next segment, I want to talk about Brian Daboll and this just incessant need of his to run Jaxson Dart into the ground, which, by the way, has finally caught up with him. So we'll talk about that right after this.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Hey, Giant fans, if you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promises to make work easier. But now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work well together. That's not SaaS, that's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is a unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting your employees, teams, and departments in one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, the busy work, and silos your software created. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. It's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch. Whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now you can get 6 months for free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnfl. That's rippling.com/lockedonnfl to get 6 months for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And coming up tomorrow, I'm going to do the Joe Shane episode, assuming that we don't have any changes at the coaching rank. All right, if we do have any firings, dismissals, or whatever, I'll have to do that one first. But I will do an episode on Joe Shane. I promised I would do that. I ran the episode on Brian Daboll on Friday. I will do one equal time for Joe Shane. So it's just a matter of whether I do it tomorrow or I do it on Wednesday, but that is coming this week. All right, speaking of Brian Daboll, I got to be honest with you folks. You know, I really wanted to believe Brian Daboll was going to be the answer. And the more I watch some of these decisions he makes, the more I just scratch my head. And look, I'll talk about a play in particular that just had me baffled. Right. And that was the decision to kick a field goal with the ball 4th and 1 on the 1 yard line. All right. Now let's look at the sequence before that. The first play of that sequence, left tackle run for 6 yards by Devin Singletary. Then they went to the right guard spot and lost a yard. And then I think it was 1 yard up the middle. Okay. Which brought up 4th and 1. At that point, they went and they kicked the field goal, right? A 19-yard field goal, which they made. The thinking being, okay, let's just take the points. And on that play, by the way, the Bears had too many men on the field. So the Giants declined the penalty and they took the points. Now, okay, the run game wasn't, lighting things on fire. But you're 1 yard away. You couldn't hand that ball off and try a push up the middle. And, I was thinking at that point, why not run a quarterback sneak or just, get some kind of, I don't know, send one of your running backs up there or even throw a quick pass. And it just, to me, that decision not to go for the touchdown, I thought that was just, too conservative for my tastes. And Brian Daboll, explained afterwards, he said, we wanted the points, made it a 2-score game. But here's the thing. Even if you go for it on 4th and 1 and you don't make it, it's a turnover on downs, yes. But hey, the Bears now have to drive the entire length of the field to score. So if your defense is playing well at that point, which Brian Daboll said, well, up until that point, the defense was playing well and we had confidence, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Well, if you had confidence in your defense, wouldn't you have had confidence in the defense to make a stop and get the ball back with really good field position? I don't agree with that call. I really don't. I don't know if that was done because analytics said to do it at that point, or Dable decided, I'm just going to play it safe because I don't trust my offense, or what he was thinking. But I just don't agree with that play. Okay, the other thing that I think we have to really, talk about, Dable's constant insistence on letting Jaxson Dart execute designed runs. Now, look, I get it. Jaxson Dart is an exciting young player. He can do a lot with his legs. But you know what? For the most part, I think often you're going to find that mobile quarterbacks don't really have long shelf lives in the NFL. And Dart, for all the hits he took week after week, and he would go to the blue medical tent, and he would come out and he would have his helmet and everything was all hunky-dory. You knew eventually it was going to catch up to him. And it did this week. On that fumble where he got hit, where I suspect is where the play occurred, Dart's laying on the ground where that ball is squirting away from him. Did you see him go after that ball? I wonder if he wasn't knocked out at that point, because he didn't go after that ball. Okay, so he goes to the sideline and everything's all hunky-dory, everybody's turning a blind eye. And then come the next series, when it's time to go out there, somebody on the sideline is like, oh, he doesn't look right. Let's get him checked. So they send him to the blue medical tent to get checked. And they then take him back to the locker room, which is a sure sign that, the initial check didn't check out. So now Jaxson Dart has a concussion. He is entering the protocol, probably going to be in the beginning stages of the protocol. Will he clear it in time? Well, it's not impossible. It depends on the severity of the concussion. But look, they've got to be a little bit more judicious with the design runs for this kid, because they're going to hurt him. And then what are they going to have? And that's something that really, really bothers me. I've never been a huge fan of mobile quarterbacks to begin with, because their job is to pass the ball. You want somebody to run, you give it to a running back. I get it. Times have changed. Quarterbacks are mobile. They extend plays with their legs. But, there's a difference between extending a play, until you have an open receiver, and running with the ball and turning into a running back. And it just seems to me that Brian Daboll's trying to make Jaxson Dart into the next Josh Allen. And I don't think the two of them physically are the same size and the same, girth, if you will. So now the Giants are in a situation where they may not have Jaxson Dart this weekend. But so what do? Well, Brian Daboll didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to say, oh, I'm going to go with, Russell Wilson, who's been QB2 ever since they decided to name Jaxson Dart the starter. Folks, I'm going to tell you what I think they should do. Jameis Winston needs to start if Jaxson Dart can't go. Jameis Winston, to me, his skill set better matches what Jaxson Dart does well. Russell Wilson's does not. If they continue to insist on sticking with Russell Wilson, they ain't going to win very many games. Because Russell Wilson, what he does well, isn't really a fit, I don't think, for this offense. So they really should think about flipping the order there. And I suspect, if Jaxson Dart can't go, Dart will probably be quarterback 3. What they should do is make Winston the starter if Jaxson Dart is not out of the concussion protocol, and let Russell Wilson be the backup. Will they do that? Probably not. They'll probably have Russ start the game and Winston as the backup, if that is the case. I don't agree with that at all. Now, as far as Dable goes, But each passing week, this loss starts with him. And as I said on Friday's show, you just can't continue like this. The more these losses pile up, the more it appears that Dable is a dead man walking, and he's not going to be back. So here's the question ownership needs to ask itself. Do you ride out the rest of the season with Dable? Or do you say, you know what? Enough is enough. We need a spark. Let's get rid of Dable. Let's get rid of Bowen. Let's have Mike Kafka be the interim head coach. And let's have, like I said, either Andre Patterson or Marquand Manuel be the defensive coordinator. Your season's lost anyway. What do you have to lose? I mean, if nothing else, you find out if Kafka maybe is a suitable head coaching candidate. Will they do it? My guess is no. I'd be surprised if they do it. And here's what's really scary, folks. This game against the Bears was probably the Giants' best chance of winning a game for the next several weeks, and they blew it. I'm not sure I can find another spot where the Giants can maybe get lucky and win a game. And can you imagine if this season ends with them only having 2 wins? Oh, boy. It's not going to be fun at the end of the year. It's not fun now. But that's the direction this team is headed. All right. So, that all being said, where do the Giants go from here? Now what? More injuries? Jaxson Dart's a question mark. Will the Giants fire Dable or Shane or even, Bowen? Who knows? Well, we'll talk about it right after this. Hey, Giant fans, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So go on, head on over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traina. And another devastating loss. The Giants had this one in the palm of their hands and it went away. So now what? Where do we go from here? Well, there's been more injuries, obviously. Jaxson Dart, I mentioned that one. That's a big one. Nunez-Roches has a toe. Tyler Nubin was seen going for x-rays after the game. I think Darius Slayton also tweaked his hamstring, although he came back in the game. This team is falling apart at the seams. So here's what I would say at this point. You haven't played Evan Neal all year long. You haven't played Jalen Hylett much all year long. At this point, is it really worth it to continue to put out some of your starters when maybe you can see if maybe, just maybe, these other guys that don't get to play very often, maybe they could be part of the answer going forward. And if not, maybe to preserve some of your starters, because wouldn't it be a kick in the teeth if, heaven forbid, one of the guards got hurt because, they're just continuing to fight for a season that's gone. I mean, is it worth it to go into the preseason mode? Maybe. But if the coaching staff probably knows that it's not going to be back, they probably are like, we're going to go down in flames, which is another reason that just doesn't make sense. But here's what I know, folks. This Giants team, the talent they have is better than the record. It is better than the results. And that lies with coaching. The injuries, look, nobody can predict injuries. I've said that all along. And it's ironic how the injuries seem to hit the positions that the general manager really doesn't address in the offseason. For example, right now, linebackers taking a hit. Darius Muaso was placed on IR. Demetrius Flanagan-Foles got dinged. Okay. I think he had a pectoral. They've already lost Chris Board early in the year. Micah McFadden's gone. Now it's like, okay, what do we do at inside linebacker? They had to bring up Zaire Barnes from the practice squad. They signed him to the 53. It's bad. It's really bad. So I'm not sure what they do at that position moving forward. As far as the team goes, has Dable lost the locker room? I don't think he has totally, but there are cracks that are developing. And at some point, you got to ask yourself, how much longer till these guys start mailing it in? I'm surprised, quite frankly, we're not seeing it more at this point than we have been. At this point, folks, the Giants, I believe, are in the third spot of the draft order for next year. We are headed for another top 10 draft pick. Ownership can't be happy. You guys aren't happy. I'm not happy. But this is where we're at. Something's got to change because, look, if they continue to roll with Bowen and Dable, I fear it's going to be more of the same because it's pretty obvious at this point. Nobody on that coaching staff seems to have an answer on how to fix what ails this team. And without that, I fear we're going to see more of the same. And now, if Jaxson Dart has to miss a week or longer, what is there to watch with this team? It's unfortunate. What is there to watch? You don't have, if you don't have Jaxson Dart, you don't have Cam Scatterbo, you don't have Malik Neighbors, what's left? I don't know the answer. Probably not much. But I'm obligated to bring you all things Giants, which I will continue to do, both here and on New York Giants on SI. And I will do my best to give you engaging content so that hopefully you will continue to come back to the Locked On Giants podcast. As for the Giants, that's out of my hands, guys. All I can say is you deserve better. We'll see if there are any changes made come Monday. Because if they're not, then you know that it's status quo. And good luck. All right, Giant fans, before we say goodbye, as always, thank you for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. For your next listen, get a double dose of Locked On NFL podcast with Tyler the Madman Rowland, who gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right, Giant fans, coming tomorrow, again, unless there's a coaching change of any sort, we'll do that show tomorrow. If not, I'm going to do my breakdown of Joe Shane and if he should stay or if he should go. So I hope you will tune into that. Until then, have a good night, everybody.